Okay, so I just call this session Exploring for Soul Tone with a quote under it, "You've got to want." When I went to tutorial one day during my second year in college, I was so depressed. Howard Nemeroff, who was to become our poet laureate, chose to take me for a drive. When we were riding around the local airport, he said, "You've got to want." I thought those words were the wisest words I'd ever heard anyone say. I marveled that anyone could know it can be hard to want. Now, over 60 years later, I want everyone to know that we can now not only see exactly how such immobilizing states come over us, we can also surface aspects of ourselves that are at the ready to rise above and get over and see beyond whatever has been getting in our way. An image of mine just came back to mind that will make what I'm saying dramatically clear. I call it dancing on the kitchen table. I see myself age about 7, dancing to beat the band just like a rockette on the kitchen table. And Daddy, sitting in his place there, is watching me with delight and admiration. Meanwhile, Mommy, sitting opposite him, snarls, "She's none of your business, she's mine," and proceeds, in my image, to take a bite out of my rump. This image is not a memory, fantasy, or dream. It's a newly recognized sort of image called an eidetic, which makes body-mind connections, accurately indicating actual impressions made on me, which I can feel now, even nearly 80 years later. I, as imager, concentrating on this image of Janny, the 7-year-old me, feel myself also eagerly and intently leaning into her dancing and being as aglow as she is, that her dancing is pleasing Daddy. When all of a sudden I get all twisted up in and taken aback by Mommy's snarling and grimacing disapproval. You can see that each different move in the image moves me as imager in a distinctly different direction, and see exactly how Mommy's disapproval fouls up all the pleasing directional signals that were moving Janny and Daddy before Mommy cut in. Now I'm going to do an emanation on this scene, intensifying my negative experience of it, to surface a new antidote self-image that will stand up to the devastation. First, I get into that wonderful leaning in of Janny's dancing that brings out a sense of joyful eagerness in me, the imager. Then, all of a sudden, after Mommy's bite, I see Janny wheeling around and leaning down towards Mommy and shaking her finger in Mommy's face, adamantly saying, "No, you don't, and don't you dare do that to me ever again." Seeing this, I'm sitting back, smiling and relaxing that I have finally told her off for good, shaking that disapproving spirit of hers off me forever. I have now cleared the air in my inner atmosphere, so this mean aspect of my mother can't get at me again. Yes, my inner voice says, agrees wholeheartedly. So that's what I'd like you to do, and reciprocal vision into. You want to start with the first part, and then this is a double duty, I guess, reciprocal vision into the initial image and into the emanation. Is that doable?
So I see Jenny, young Jenny, dancing on the table and enjoying herself. And as I see that image, I feel happy. I feel pleased at seeing Jenny do that, and I see uh, Jenny's father smiling, smiling and enjoying it as well. Yeah, so I feel some warmth, feel a smile in my face, and uh, it's this sense of liveliness from the dancing. Yeah, it just feels bright and light and lively, and I feel some joyful tingling energy inside myself.
Mhm.
Um, and I noticed Jenny's legs and her feet, and yeah, that joy gets even stronger. I can kind of feel some lively energy in my own legs and feet. And then I see Jenny's mother coming in with a totally different energy. But before I do that, let me see myself in Jenny's shoes. Yeah, I see myself in the bedroom of my childhood home, and I'm jumping from one bed to the other. There are two beds in that room, and I'm jumping up and down on one bed, and then I leap across the space between the two beds, and I land on the other bed, and I'm just having a great time. And I feel that kind of euphoria, that rush of energy of bouncing up and down, and then like that sense of daring, taking that leap across. I just feel that in my whole body. Uh, that sense of getting totally absorbed in that activity.
Mhm.
And then I actually hear my father's voice coming from the first floor of the house. Knock it off. Um, just uh, angry voice, like piercing my moment of joy. Just have this sense of like, oh, I need to really uh, shrink or shift gears, and I feel some tightness coming into my gut and my arms. I feel some tightness up in my shoulders up here as I see Jenny in the way in the emanation that she spoke to her mom. I see myself, my young self, walking downstairs and engaging with my father. I can see him sitting in his chair, looking kind of tense and uh, angry. And I stand and I just look at him, and I say to him, uh, "I was I was having fun up there," and I just say that to him, and I can see my dad's face, shifting. Yeah, it's actually really touching because when I see my dad's face, he just is he looks a little startled at the my tone and just my presence instead of just being like, "Oh, I need to be quiet because dad's angry and he yelled at me." That I'm not shrinking, but that I'm just showing up, sharing with him my truth. Uh, and see my dad's face just changing, like his anger and his impatience just kind of melting away, and him really seeing me. Yeah, I feel his gaze. Just feel my breath coming in and relaxed with a relaxed quality. Yeah, it feels good to meet my dad there and just have that gaze between us. Still noticing my breath and that calmness. Still have some tension in my chest a little bit, but it's not like it was before. Just noticing my chest, my rib cage, breathing. Yeah, I just see my dad looking at me and kind of nodding, and feels like we're both seeing each other in this. Like I really hear his frustration, and he really sees my joy and maybe feels some of the impact of him yelling in that way. But it's like a mutual coming closer toward each other, like mutual understanding and acceptance. That feels good. Yeah. I didn't exactly have that moment with my father. I can imagine that we would have had some of those moments if he lived longer, but he died when I was 21. So it feels good to just be in his presence and have there be this open open dialogue rather than just he does his thing, then I do my thing, and he does his thing separately, but to have this real coming together. Yeah, I feel a sense of peace.
How is the tension?
It's almost like I feel the reverberations of it, but I don't think it's actually the tension. Yeah, I'm actually just noticing different muscles in me and that there's still like the muscles in between my ribs holding some tension there. Now that you asked.
So the reason I asked was thinking that you could do oscillation now, which is go to the most positive moment there and oscillate that with the tension moment and
Mhm.
see if you can bring the tension down by doing that oscillation. Is that clear?
Yeah. Yeah. So the most tense moment is just that moment when my young self is laughing and kind of just getting lost in the joy of all this bouncing and jumping. And my dad's voice, his loud voice, just like pierces right through the floor of the house and up the stairs and right into me, and just this real this real shock to my system that brings this tension.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that, and then I see myself, my young self, getting composed and just taking a moment, and then walking down the steps, going around the corner, and just telling my dad that I was really having fun up there when you yelled like that. Yeah, and just that shared gaze.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No more words after that, just this mutual seeing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel my breath come in and feel some of that tension dissipate.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go back and see my young self jumping up and down, jumping up and down, jumping up and down, and then doing a big leap like a squirrel monkey jumping between two trees. And just like this riot of fun. And I feel like myself getting out of breath and slightly lightheaded. And then my father's voice, knock it off. Yeah. And it's still surprising, but not as shocking, I guess, this time. And then I see myself downstairs, and just the moment when after I've spoken to my father, and there's that moment of quiet. Yeah. And then I see myself getting closer to my father and just putting my hand on his shoulder. Feels really good. That same room that I see my dad in there, where I put my hand on his shoulder, that's where his deathbed was downstairs in the family room, and I was right there with him when he died. Just reminds me of those moments of being there with him, and yeah, a decade later, and just that real gentle, loving sense of being with him as he was fading away. Yeah. Yeah, I just feel a lot of love for him, a lot of compassion. Um, yeah, it was like the tables were turned at the end. It was like I was there as a young man, you know, caring for him a bit at the end, and he was just more and more helpless. Yeah, I really like that moment of just looking at each other with just really seeing each other. Yeah.
That's the bridge.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. I'm really like never before this year. I'm really tuning into the Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead and Halloween coming up in just a week or so, and just for the first time experiencing that, oh yeah, there is something going on here. I think it's in, I don't know if Mexicans say it as well or other people, but like a thinning of the veils between living and the dead, ancestors. Yeah. But I didn't expect that to come up here when we were doing this at all. Yeah, I hadn't made the connection that that was the same room that my dad passed away in, and until that in the image, I just saw myself go over and put a hand on his shoulder. That's a real, that's new, feels new. Yeah, it's like the we have our roles that get established between us with different people, like who's who, and uh just like assigning status to each other in a way, like, oh, you fit into my life in this way, and this
Mhm.
is how we relate with each other. And just moments like that can get underneath those things and get to the deeper level of connection beneath the kind of stories we tell each other about each other, we tell ourselves about each other.
But what I like about these stories that come to us through this practice is that they have a deep pertinence that solves or resolves something that has needed resolution or something like that for
Mhm.
a long time. So they're not, it's just not ad hoc other stories.
Yeah,
These are the coherence in this range of our imagination is just stunningly pertinent, so it really does something for us that really needed to happen. And for maybe decades, it needed to happen. But
yeah,
now, once we just get comfortable with the steps, we can at any moment take advantage of that pertinence. So that's really what we're doing now is making it possible for people to realize that we have that bounce in us, we have that buoyancy in us. So for you know, once you get a good feel for that, then you don't want to stick with the same old stories that give you or somebody else so much grief. You
mhm,
know, we need to just open up to this range of possibilities. Find the health that's built into us that we're just ignoring. It's there. It's right there.
mhm.
But we have to want it. And when we want it, then it brings out our soul tone, which to me is, that forthrightness that keeps us going for what feels good and better and better.
Mm,
And that gives us a sense of direction. So we're not easily swayed into difficulties when we can allow that soul tone to go forth.
Yeah.
But if we're shrinking, no, it's not going to show up.
Yeah.
But I just saw that recently so much how, even little things, because some of these moments are so difficult for us that they're so terrifying and they make such a deep impression, and we're never given a way of responding to them, so they just hang in there. And so we give more and more credence to our shrinking and our cutting off and our shriveling up and so on, or exploding. And then we don't realize this graciousness is ready there for us, right there.
Hmm.
So thank you.
Thank you so much.